I'm Yana. I'm a 17-year-old IB student who just so happens to be a Chinese-Filipino millennial like all of you. So right now, I have a confession to make. At this very moment, I'm currently experiencing the most uncomfortable moment of my life, and congratulations to all of you since you're here to witness it. So when you think about a TED speaker, you think of people who are so amazing, successful, and generally, you'd think that they would one day change the world. So I look at this description and I compare it to myself. I am merely a student like all of you, and so who would have thought that I'd be standing on stage right now? Unlike my peers, I have done nothing worthy of recognition. So I myself was shocked when I found myself in this reverse situation. Now, I want to introduce you all to my 3 levels of discomfort. So, the first thing you have to look out for is when you start noticing me doing awkward, unnecessary nodding like this. This would mean that I've already reached my first level. Second is when you start noticing me doing unnecessary hand gestures like this, which is a result of me not knowing what to say next, since my brain would stop functioning when the nervousness would hit. And then, last but not the least, it's a whole new level of discomfort where I just wish for the ground to swallow me up whole. And how ironic, since if you look beneath me right now, there's this huge red circle below my feet. So, at this moment, I'm feeling all 3 of these levels, and I'm sure you guys can notice. Right now, it feels as if I am currently experiencing the most uncomfortable moment of my life. But when I think about it, over the course of the past year, I've done many things that gave me this exact same feeling, signaling that I've already reached my Code Red Level 3. And so, like most people, of course, I do not necessarily like the idea of being uncomfortable, but I vow to myself that I would continue throwing myself into situations like this. All my life, I have always been spoon-fed, both at home and in school. For instance, I've never in my life experienced riding a jeep because I've never felt the need to, and I never had to, since my parents would always provide a driver or 2 whenever we had to go somewhere. Nannies and maids are also always kept at home, so it'd be more convenient for us. And I'm never allowed to go out of the house alone. Even with my friends, I have to give my parents the full account of where I'm going and who I'm going with, just so they can evaluate whether or not to allow me to go out of the house. Most of the time, I would even have to give my parents the contact numbers of my friends just so they could pester my friends about my whereabouts. Sorry, my friends. So in school, I have the same problem. Since I've always been used to being spoon-fed, the idea of extracurricular activities that are outside school has become foreign to me, since I've always been used to the 4 corners of my room and my house and at school. I constantly wonder how students from other schools are able to do so many things, like go and make... I've actually met someone who is going into international dance competitions, and that made me realize how small I feel. So from this, I came to the conclusion that I've never allowed myself to experience things like this. And this all goes back to my culture, our culture, my Chinese-Filipino culture. So, we Chinese Filipinos, I realize, are sheltered. This all goes back to our previous 2 generations, which is our grandparents and our parents. Our grandparents chose discomfort when they chose to migrate to the Philippines in order to create this brighter future for us. I'm sure we are all aware of the struggles that both our parents and grandparents had to endure for us to be able to live the comfortable life that we have today. Actually, I have a story. My grandfather told me that he had to migrate from China to avoid the war there and go to Holo. And then, when he arrived at Holo, it was also at war. So imagine how he felt when he was placed in the same predicament. So imagine how I was able to be here right now. So, our generation is very lucky that we do not have to experience the struggles that our previous generations had to, and we do not realize how much this affects how sheltered we are at the moment. We readily accept the comfortable life we are handed, thinking that there's no need to step out of it. This is the life that we live today because this is all we've ever known. So I did my research and I found out that the average life expectancy in the Philippines is 68 years. And I did my math and I computed that I've only have 3/4 of my life left here on Earth since I already used up 25% of it. And that is something that's really alarming and really sad because I realized that I was only able to maximize 5% of my existence since I've never allowed myself to go beyond my comfort zone. So, this 5% happened after I had my vow, right, remember? And this was when I started doing more things compared to before. So, you guys might be wondering how this vow began, and I've come to realize that this is because of IB. IB helped me broaden my horizons and made me realize a lot of new perspectives that I never allowed myself to see before. It was actually the first time that I put myself in a position of discomfort. Therefore, I was able to learn many things, and actually, thanks to IB, I was able to join various school activities such as Miss Sports Fest, organize medical missions, participate in planting activities, hiking activities, or even build houses for the less fortunate. But if there was one experience that I'd like to highlight was back in the summer where I was given the opportunity to join this charity fashion show. That experience was something. It got me from level 0 to level 3, comfortableness so quick. Back then, it felt like the most uncomfortable moment of my life. But at the end of the day, I'd always come to realize that with every new awkward encounter, it actually made me and taught me something new. But if there was one experience that really exceeded me and my parents' stress level 3 was when I chose to go to Morocco for my IB culture immersion. We all know that Morocco's culture is so different from ours, and so that led me to many realizations. First, I'd like to address the stereotypes. Many Filipinos shine, and generally people who come from comfortable lifestyles view Muslims as a terrorist country, especially with our difference in culture and religion. This can be seen when my parents really discouraged me to go there, since people label Morocco as this mysterious country in Africa that was unsafe or something like that. And in fact, most of my peers had to bargain with their parents to allow them to go too. And right now, as I'm standing here, I can tell you for myself that I've never felt unsafe there. In fact, sometimes I'd even feel like I was safer there rather than when I'm here in the Philippines. Second, I'd like to introduce you all to Dave, who is a British photojournalist that I met in my trip. Dave was something. Dave shared his experience of recently going to a country in the Middle East that was currently at war. And his job there was to take photographs of the current situation of the country, since he wanted to share pictures and to spread awareness to the countries that weren't exposed to the realities of war. And then that time, when he was there, imagine how the country was literally being bombed, and when you're standing in this area, you could hear the other places nearby that were being bombed. And from this, you can conclude that his life was literally at risk. But then he told me that he didn't mind at all, since it was his passion to do things like this, and it made him self-fulfilled. This right here goes against everything we were taught as Chinese Filipinos, since all our decisions are based on how we are able to maintain this comfortable life. But I can say for myself that that's something I would never do, and something my parents would never allow me to do. And honestly, I'd never think that someone like Dave existed in this world, aside from TV, of course. But here, he proves to us that a comfortable life isn't necessarily equal to a happy life. Third, it's actually quite amusing how, out of nowhere, me and my friends would crave for Chinese food like noodles, dumplings, and Filipino fried rice. I never realized how much I appreciated and clung to my culture until that moment. Actually, people think that when you discover new cultures and realities, that's when you let go of your culture. But actually, it's that moment when you step out and discover new things, that's the moment where you'd appreciate and create a stronger connection to your roots. So let's go back to grade 10 when we were first taught Abraham Maslow's theory of the hierarchy of needs. So the idea is that in order to reach the top level of the pyramid, you must first achieve the lower levels of the pyramid. So in order for you to become the best version of yourself, you have to first achieve all the lower levels. In my situation and in our situation, it is safe to say that our parents already provide for the lower 3 levels of the pyramid, which is the physiological, safety, and the belonging and love. Since we are used to be given all these 3, we have this tendency as sheltered individuals to cling to these lower levels, which deprives us from reaching the higher levels. My point is, if we continue to allow ourselves to live in the confines of our comfort zones, we are also depriving ourselves from being the fullest that we can be. So, I am about to end my TED Talk, and I want to urge my fellow millennials to please go out of your comfort zones and to embrace discomfort. Whether it is you choose to live the life comfortably or you choose to endlessly chase the wonders that life has to offer, you wouldn't know for yourself what you want unless you go out and look for it. There's nothing wrong with choosing the comfortable life if you have a reason to. A reason that is not the fact that this is all you've ever known, and therefore you're choosing to conform to it. So now, I'd like to reiterate how uncomfortable I am right on the stage, but I'm saying right now that it's okay, since, as you remember, I vowed to myself that I'll throw myself into whatever awkward situation until I'm able to know what I want in my life. And I want you guys to do the same thing. Thank you.